Hey y'all, welcome back to Crime Critics and Chaos.
My name is Shivani.
And I'm Shaylin.
And we're your hosts. Guys, this has been the longest week ever.
Yes, it has.
I feel like, I don't know why, I think February is supposed to be like the shortest month, but I feel like it feels the longest.
Yeah. And can we talk about this weather in Dallas?
I know, I agree. It's for those of you guys who are not from Texas, it's like super cold here.
Yes.
And you know what's crazy is I have cousins that live in Alabama, and I was just talking to them the other day, and he was like, oh, it's like 80 degrees over here, and I'm in shorts. And I'm like...
80 degrees in Alabama?
Yeah, and it's like 23 here.
Oh my God, let's go to Alabama.
Seriously, that's what I had said. I was like, do you want to switch weathers? Cause
like, for real.
I really love the heat. Like, I'm a summer girl.
Me too. We are summer babies. So
yeah, we are summer babies.
Definitely looking forward to the summer. I'm not feeling this weather. This cold is just driving me crazy. So please, summer, get here ASAP.
Yes. I mean, I like fall too because it's like in between. Mm-hmm. And spring is okay, I guess. Yeah. But fall and summer is definitely my favorite.
Definitely. So, Shivani, what was your week like?
Well, other than the fact that it was long, I feel like I've been exhausted, but I'm always exhausted. So, the other day, well, because of the weather, we came home early from work, mm-hmm. and I finished off my shift, and then I went ahead and slept for like 5 hours. So that was probably my highlight of the week.
Did you never sleep, girl?
I really don't.
Me, you ever don't sleep.
We like Shannon and I struggle sleeping at night. Yeah. And we take melatonin. We do all the things that you could possibly think of to get some sleep, but we just cannot sleep at night.
Yeah, we're so sleep deprived, and that's what happens when you work at a busy law firm throughout the week.
That is true. What about you, Shaylin? What's your highlight of the week?
Well, my week was not very eventful besides the fact that there are some changes coming up soon. And I've been doing some house hunting, so that's going pretty well. So I guess that is something that's been eventful for me, you know.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get a nice house. I'm literally so tired of staying in apartments. They're getting so expensive now. So I'm just like, I could just get a house, might as well, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I'm doing.
Well, good luck to you in your house search.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Guys, just a reminder, please follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Instagram and Facebook, so join our discussion groups there. We love to hear your thoughts and opinions regarding the cases that we cover. We also appreciate any reviews that you guys leave us on all the platforms that you listen to us on, whether that's Apple Podcast or YouTube. That will definitely help get our podcast into the feed of other true crime listeners such as you. All right, partners in crime, grab your wine and join us as it's time to wine and crime. Our sources for the case I'm covering today, well, it's just one source, honestly. It's just NBCnews.com. Shaylin, are you ready?
I am ready, girl.
All right, so our story today starts in Livingston, Texas. Do you know where Livingston is?
I do.
I don't.
I do. This is interesting. I'm already interested.
So for those who aren't familiar with the small town, Livingston is in the North Houston area. So yep. I had to look it up because, like I said, I didn't know where Livingston was. But Natasha Atchley was raised in Livingston for most of her life. She attended school in Livingston, Texas, and Natasha was known to be the wild cheerleader.
Okay.
Her friends described her to be popular and pretty and someone who was always attracted attention. As someone would say, she was the life of the party, always free-spirited.
Okay, I can see that. Kind of getting a visual of her, you know, personality and stuff like that. So, okay.
Right. So, Keisha Myers was Natasha's best friend in school. Keisha stated that Natasha was the type of girl that everyone either loved or hated.
Okay.
So if that gives you kind of more of a description on Natasha.
Right.
And for Keisha, Natasha was a friend that she absolutely loved. So Keisha stated that if you wanted to have fun, she was your girl, but was more than just that, she was also a loyal friend.
Nice.
So it seems like the two were really good friends and, you know, they bonded really well together. So the two bonded instantly and they were inseparable. They grew up together and never did anything without each other until senior year when Natasha moved away to live with her grandparents in Odessa, Texas.
I know where Odessa is too.
I know where Odessa is. I just don't know like how far away the two like cities are from each other. But one of them's in North Houston and the other one's like East Texas almost. So I would assume it's kind of a good distance.
Mm-hmm. It's actually an 8-hour distance from each other.
Really?
Yes.
8 hours?
8 hours.
Girl, only in Texas will you travel 8+ hours and still be in the same damn state.
Girl, 8 hours, try 634 miles.
What are you talking about? El
Paso?
Oh my gosh, I knew you were talking about that. We actually have some listeners that actually was telling Shaylin and I that they wanted to listen to some cases from El Paso. So stay tuned for that because I know we're researching some cases. So.
Oh, definitely. Definitely is going to be on our list for sure.
So, like I was saying, Natasha moved away to live with her grandparents in Odessa, Texas. Now, we're unsure of why Natasha left to finish school in Odessa, since there are no sources stating why. But I'm assuming there has to be a legitimate reason, since it's rare for someone to switch schools during their last year without any good reason.
So, she was a senior.
She was a senior.
And she moved. So, she didn't graduate yet before she moved.
No, she just moved like midway through the year.
Yeah, that's odd. Something had to happen. I don't see any parents taking their kids out like that.
Right. I'm not sure if she moved like in the middle of the year or like the beginning of her senior year, but she moved before her graduation.
But that's still odd, whether it's the beginning or the middle. That's still odd for somebody to up and take their kid out of school if there's, their senior year.
Right, and I was thinking the same thing because I know for a fact, like, you're about to graduate, you only have a couple months left. Like, why move schools? And that too, 8 hours away. Yeah. So I'm sure there had to be like a legitimate reason as to why she did that or why her parents took her out of school, but they didn't really state why. Oh. So Natasha graduated from Odessa Permian High School, and she got an apartment with roommates in College Station and began taking classes at Blinn College. So for those of you guys who don't know, I actually graduated from A&M in College Station, so I'm very familiar with the area, and I know Shaylin graduated from
Prairie View.
So
yeah.
So she's also familiar with the area as well. So when Keisha found out that she was pregnant, she as in Keisha, she said Natasha was very overjoyed and she correctly predicted that it would be a boy and told Keisha that she would help her when the baby came.
That's so nice of her.
I know. So I don't know if like Natasha's plan was to stay in College Station and take classes, and then when Keisha had her baby, if she was going to move back and take some time off, or I don't know if she even had time to think about all of that stuff.
Right. Probably not. That's also suddenly,
Right. So one day, Natasha called Keisha's house to tell her that she would be coming back to Livingston to visit and to go to some birthday party. Now, keep in mind, Keisha didn't speak to Natasha directly. She actually spoke to Keisha's grandmother, and she said that she wanted to make sure that Keisha would be there whenever Natasha came to visit. Okay. So she just wanted to, catch up with Keisha, and she just told her grandmother, hey, can you just take down a message and let Keisha know that I'm going to come on this specific day, and for her to just be available so that we can hang out.
Right, okay.
So the day that Natasha arrived to town, she went ahead and attended the friend's birthday party in Shepherd, Texas, and decided that she would see Keisha sometime later. So on the evening of Saturday, May 2nd, 1992, Natasha was last seen at that party in Shepherd that she was attending. Now, around 10 a.m. the next day, a man and his grandson returned from a fishing trip and came across a smoldering hatchback car on a dirt road in rural San Jacinto County.
Jesus, we're jumping from town to town to town to town.
Right. So, this was only about a mile away from the party. So this was still in Shepherd.
Got you.
So Natasha's remains, which had been burned down to just her bones, were inside the trunk of her hatchback.
Oh, no.
Right. So keep in mind that she went missing the night before, and then she was found the very next day at 10 a.m. So whoever did this, they did it all within one night.
One night. Not even 24 hours, though.
Not even 24 hours, just one night. Definitely not 24 hours. If anything, like 12 hours or less.
Right.
So retired San Jacinto County Sheriff's Office Deputy Tom Branch, who worked on the case for about 12 years, told Dateline investigators that he believed Natasha was killed at or near the site of the party sometime during the night or in the early morning hours. Then she was driven about a mile away to the dirt road where the car was set on fire. So basically, Deputy Branch told Dateline that the scene was so gruesome that Natasha's whole body could fit into a shoebox.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if it's because Natasha was decapitated beforehand and then the car was set on fire, or if her body was set on fire, like, as a whole in the car, and then her body basically burned into, bones only. We're not sure.
That's interesting. It could be either or, honestly. Right. Honestly, I feel like they possibly decapitated her and then put her in the trunk and set it on fire, but it could be either way. Like I said, they could have.
Yeah, I mean, they did say that she was found in the trunk, though. So I mean, if they did do that, it's probably so that she could fit in the trunk, right? So that makes sense too. The only thing that I was thinking was, like, I feel like, and again, I don't have experience with this kind of stuff, but I feel like, to decapitate a person or a human or a dead body, it takes a while.
It does.
And
absolutely.
for the fact that, she was found the very next morning, I feel like it didn't give him enough time. But then again, like I said, people who are experienced in this kind of stuff, like they probably know exactly what they're doing and could do it very quickly. But that was just my theory on what could have happened. Yeah, but I do agree. Like, I do think that in order to fit her in the trunk, they probably did kind of, do whatever they had to in order to get her in there.
Right. Like I said, it could be either or, especially if she was in the trunk that long and, the fire was going for that long. She could have, of course, very much so. Her body was, detaching itself with the fire. So
exactly.
Wow.
So Natasha's family had reported her missing early that morning when she didn't arrive at her mother's house as expected. Initially, the investigators believed they would solve the case pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. 2 people were arrested for aggravated assault after a witness claimed that he saw them beating up Natasha, according to Deputy Branch.
So beating up Natasha at the party?
Yeah. So there was a witness that stated that 2 people were basically beating up Natasha. But the case fell apart when the witness recanted his story.
I'm about to say, so do we know if those 2 people were females or males or...
Yep, we'll get into that.
See, look, I'm jumping again.
So it's just been a really complicated case from the beginning, Branch said, and unfortunately we missed something along the way. So Deputy Branch also told Dateline that the number of people at the party, which he described as a party involving alcohol and an array of drugs, made it difficult to investigate. Which makes sense, right? Like when there's so many people at the party, you don't know. There's so many different versions of what happened from different people. So it was hard for them to kind of put together a timeline of what could have happened at the party because of how many witnesses there were.
Mm-hmm. And especially with the type of drugs that they may have been on, could have caused hallucinations and any type of thing. So I understand where they're coming from with that for sure.
So investigators served search warrants at houses and conducted several searches of vehicles all over the surrounding areas. They questioned potential witnesses from the party, but no one was talking.
Of course, they never talk.
Right. Even if they think they know something, no one's gonna say anything.
Snitches get stitches, That's basically the rule.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the rule of everything.
Well, so Deputy Branch actually said that he was 100% sure that he spoke to the person responsible for her death during the course of the investigation, but unless that person or witness came forward, they'll never know the truth. So they believe that, they think they know who did it. Mm-hmm. They just don't have anything to prove that person did it, and they didn't really mention who they think it could be.
Oh, so how did they come to that conclusion?
So you remember that witness that stated that they saw 2 people beating up Natasha at the party?
Yeah.
So years later, now the sources didn't explain how many years later, but years later they tracked down that same witness in prison.
In prison?
Yeah, so the witness was currently serving a jail sentence of a sexual assault of a child at the time.
Girl, no way.
Yeah. And the witness's name is Anthony Cornelius.
Wow.
Yeah, so when Anthony was questioned by the investigators again, he basically stated that he couldn't say for 100% that he did see Natasha get beat up by 2 people because there was a lot of people around.
So what was his point if he was saying that in the first place, if he gonna kind of recant and say that he couldn't say for sure if it was her?
Right, but that's what he did in the beginning, right? So he told investigators that he saw 2 people beating her up, and then he recanted the confession immediately, or not confession, sorry, the witness statement immediately, and that's why they were never able to kind of like pick up any leads on that, because he recanted that witness statement. So they couldn't really find who it was because there wasn't anyone who saw that except for Anthony. And when he recanted that was it. There was no other witness statements that saw anything else.
That's odd. That makes me wonder, like, are you lying about this or?
Well, I'm glad that you say that, because on the night of Natasha's murder, Anthony admits that he was on LSD.
I'm sorry, but
you called it.
Wow.
So now Anthony was saying that he wasn't really at the actual party, but he claims he was driving through the neighborhood because a friend had called saying Natasha and another girl were going to fight.
So he wasn't really even there.
Exactly.
He really just made this whole thing up.
Basically.
Wow.
Now, years later, he says he can't really say for certain who he saw and what he saw. But all he remembers is that he got a call saying that Natasha and some girl were going to fight, so he was driving through the neighborhood to kind of get to the area where they were said to have, been fighting.
But he never actually made it there.
Don't
know.
Nope, we don't know.
Yeah, he lying.
I mean, that's the 3rd time that he's changing his story, right? So at this point, you're like, okay, you're clearly not a reliable source.
Not at all.
Now, 30 years later, the Texas Rangers oversee this case. Branch, the previous investigator, is still hopeful that someone will come forward till this day. But to me, I'm like, if no one came forward back then, I really doubt that anyone's going to come forward now.
Nah, definitely not now. There was literally nobody else that has come forward stating that they saw anything take place at that party in regards to Natasha.
Exactly. And it's crazy because it's so many, there was said to have been so many people there. So how did no one see anything? And if, if you did see something, how are you not coming forward? There's so many witnesses, like, so many of you guys should be coming forward with the information that because
they know what happened.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
They know exactly what happened. They just don't want to say anything. It's always things like this. You're at a party, something happens, nobody wants to say anything. We see this in cases, so many cases actually, that it's terrible, and I really don't like that.
And I wonder, because she was like, basically the cool spunky girl that everyone loved, or hated, but you could tell that she was popular, in some kind of way. And it seems like the people who didn't like her was because they were envy of her popularity. Yeah. And she didn't even go to school there anymore. Like, she was going to school in a whole different city. So she just came back,
Right.
So I don't understand how she could have, gotten into an argument or gotten into some kind of dispute with anyone when she hadn't even really been in communication with anyone other than Keisha.
I mean, but that kind of does go back to why she moved in the first place.
That's true.
We don't know what could have possibly happened for that reason for her to move.
That is true. That is true. So Natasha's brother, Chad Woodard, he was only 12 years old when his sister was murdered.
Wow.
So Chad says that once you've seen your sister's burned remains, it's something that just stays with you forever.
Oh, of course. You'll never get that sight, out of your head.
Yeah.
Never.
I don't even know if he saw her or if he just kind of, heard the news. But either way, like, that's something that you can never, that's something you never think of. So the fact that he knew this information, I'm sure he, it probably hit him in a whole different way than
absolutely
anything else that he would have known. At the time, he lived with his mother and younger brother in Livingston. He remembers Natasha as being active and lively, always around friends, and cheerleading or playing the piano. Living life full speed ahead is what I think. The only way she knew how to live, Chad said. After her death, family was just devastated, which is obviously, expected.
Absolutely.
Chad told Dateline that his mother fought to find out what happened to Natasha for years, but she lost her battle in 2002 when she died of cancer.
Die not knowing what happened to your child.
Yep.
I mean, I like to think that when people die in these type of circumstances, they do actually know what happened because they are able to meet up with them in heaven.
I agree. I do think that too. And then they're at peace, or their soul's at peace knowing what happened.
Exactly.
It's not even about revenge or seeking justice, but it's just the fact of feeling at peace knowing, what had happened.
Exactly.
You want to know what she was going through at the time, what happened. You don't really care much for who did it, but it was more of, what she was going through at the time when this was happening,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think losing Natasha literally killed our mother, Chad said. It was her dying wish to find out what happened and to find out who did this to Natasha.
I agree. I agree. So how long after did the mom die? After Tasha?
So Natasha passed away in 1992, I believe. Yeah, and then her mother passed away in 2002. So a decade.
Yeah, 10 years later.
Dr. Alan Ashworth, a former resident of Natasha's hometown of Livingston, Texas, has dedicated many years to sifting through the theories, hoping to uncover the truth, and has written 3 books about this case.
3 books?
3 books.
Wow, he's really dedicated then.
He really is. He believes that we can solve the case. He believes that he actually already have, but it's up to the authorities to solve it. So this all kind of comes down to, there is a known suspect. We just don't know who this known suspect is because a lot of people keep saying that they know who it is. They just don't have evidence for it.
And that's odd because I'm like, if you know who it is, you would think that you provide a little bit more detail than what you're doing now.
Right. So Ashworth said that he can solve the case, but he just can't make the arrest. So that makes me think, what he means by that is, if it was up to him, he would be able to tell you who did it.
Exactly.
But because he's not, in the authority, or he's not working for the authorities, he can't make an arrest.
But it sounds like he knows some information behind the scenes, maybe some information that the police may have, to put 2 and 2 together and to come to that conclusion, because I don't just see anybody like him just saying, oh, I know who did it, without having the resources and also the information behind it to like.
Oh, I'm
do
sure.
that.
I'm sure he has all the information that kind of leads him to believe he thinks he knows who did it.
Right.
And the authorities probably do too. But the thing that I've like noticed just from seeing tons of episodes of Forensic Files is that, you know, when authorities make an arrest, they want to make sure that they have all the evidence lined up. Like, they basically want to have their ducks in a row.
Exactly.
Because when they get convicted and they go to trial, they don't want any hiccups to come in where this killer could possibly go free because of the lack of evidence. So it could be that they don't have enough evidence and they're probably gathering all this evidence that they think that they, or not that they think, but they think they know who it is, and they're gathering evidence against this person so that when they prosecute them or him, they have enough evidence to actually convict him rather than him being set free.
Right.
Because, you know, I don't know if anyone knows this, but in America or in the U.S., you only get 2 trials.
Yep.
So you can reappeal your first trial, but after that second trial, you're set free. You can never get a trial again. Like, you're...
Double jeopardy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, you know, they probably want to stay away from that, right? They don't want to, like, double try him at all. In order to get like 2, you know, not guilty verdicts.
Exactly.
So that's the only thing I can think of, that they probably know who it is, but they don't have enough evidence, and so they're not really like releasing any information to the public because they don't want anything to be kind of misconstrued and tampered with as far as evidence.
You're absolutely right. But I'm like, at what point are you gonna kind of give out more information so we can put this killer or killers in jail?
Yeah.
Because it seems like the more we keep holding on to this information, the longer the case is going to remain unsolved.
Yeah, especially because it's been so many years, right? Like, I definitely agree. So Keisha Myers told Dateline that she would just like answers about what happened to her wild and spunky friend, that it may not happen in my lifetime, but it was her mother's dying wish to know, and that never actually happened. So, you know, she passed away without knowing. Keisha was with Natasha's mother when she died from cancer. She says she treated me like her daughter and my boys like her grandchildren.
Aww, that's so sweet.
So she basically took the role of her daughter.
She did.
So, Shaylin, I actually came across a news article from the Polk County Enterprise. It was a news article that was published on May 6th of 2012, and it had a lot of facts regarding the investigation by the new investigator, or the new chief deputy, Lacey Rogers.
Okay.
So on the night of May 2nd, Natasha attended a pair of parties with some friends. So not 1, but 2.
So it was not originally 1. Now it's 2 parties.
2 parties, right.
Wow, okay.
So the first party was at a Polk County residence, and another birthday party was at a home in 5 acres in Independence subdivision.
Okay.
Now, she was last seen leaving the residence at about 3 a.m. On May 3rd in her 1989 Chevrolet Camaro, and she was seen leaving the 5 acres in Independence subdivision. So I don't think the first party really mattered. I think she had attended, left, and then everything that went down at the second party.
Had to. Yeah.
So investigators' statements at the time showed Atchley and many of the partygoers that had drank large amounts of alcohol, smoked marijuana, and inhaled butane and used LSD and other narcotics. So like I was stating earlier, there definitely was hardcore drugs involved. So in this article, it states that family members reported Natasha missing, and Polk County were actually investigating, but San Jacinto County officials found a smoldering vehicle on a dirt trail in 5 acres in Independence. So when they reported her missing, that was a different county. So it was that county's police department that was looking for her, but here in a separate county where that second party was, that's who found, well, it was the 2, people that I said found the vehicle, then they called the police, and then the police came down and saw the burning vehicle, and they basically towed it to like a tow yard. Okay. And they probably ran the plates, figured out who the owner was, which was Natasha's mother, and then Natasha's mother went to the tow yard to kind of, she already knew her daughter was missing, so for her it's like, oh, the vehicle was found, let me see what's going on with it. Right. So she goes to the tow yard and she kind of looks to the vehicle, opens the trunk, and that's where she finds Natasha's body.
Oh my God, so she found her daughter's body.
Yes.
Oh my God.
According to this article, but yes. So the investigators at the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed that the remains were those of Natasha on May 12th. So on May 3rd is when she was basically found. May 2nd is when she went missing late that night, early, May 3rd morning. And then May 12th is when she was confirmed, or that the body was confirmed to be hers.
So yeah, it took a couple of days, especially since her body was burned beyond recognition. Yeah, it definitely does take. Actually, in those times, I'm actually surprised that it took that short of a time.
Yeah, it usually takes a good
that.
while. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it was just because of how badly her body was, burnt, and the fact that it probably cases like this or crimes like this doesn't really happen here. So for them, it was like, oh, we have to get a lead on this quick.
Absolutely.
So keep in mind that everyone that attended the party was basically, on drugs, or they were very drunk.
Yeah.
So some of the party goers who were last seen with Natasha alive were reluctant to talk, but their memories weren't very clear. So of course, with their memories being very fuzzy, they're not really reliable statements.
Right. So, same thing what we said earlier about, of course, they probably don't remember because they was on these drugs, hallucinating and stuff like that. So yeah, that's not out of the ordinary there.
So Rogers stated that the only people who knew what happened are the people, or the person rather, that killed her, and the person who did away with her body. Now, whether that's two separate people or whether that's the same person, but that's the only person or people who knows what happened to her.
Okay.
Now, Rogers has a pretty strong theory about who started the intense fire on that deserted trail. I've always thought it was the father of the girl who had the party in 5 Acres in Independence, Rogers said. He was the only one who hadn't been drinking heavily and using drugs that night. Which is so odd to me. Like, your daughter's having a party. I mean, I know that she was 18. So his daughter was 18, the one who held the party.
Right.
So it's just weird to me that, his daughter was having a party and, they're all using drugs and drinking and all that stuff. And the father's attending the party as a guest. And he's completely okay with all of this that's going on. It's just weird.
He's not a good parent. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I agree. So the party was hosted by, again, like I said, 18-year-old Cindy Hennings at the time. And Rogers believed that her father, who is now deceased, is the person or the suspect of, who could have done this to Natasha.
I wonder why, though.
Well, I'll get into that.
Okay.
So Hennings' father knew the location of a nearby oil well that obtained accelerant from the well prior to the murder. He has used the accelerant gas to burn brush on his property in the subdivision. Fire investigation specialists identified the fuel used to burn Natasha's car as the same accelerant used when he was burning that brush.
Are you serious? Wow. What was... Okay, so let's say that he did kill Natasha. What was the motive behind it? Why?
I mean, I kind of do get into that a little bit later in this article, but I'm with you. I'm not sure if there was ever like a legitimate reason why.
Okay, I'm gonna let you tell it so we can figure it out.
Okay. So the funeral director who performed cremations in that area told investigators that it takes a fire burning at 1500 degrees for several hours to consume human remains to the degree found of Natasha's body in her car. So basically she was burnt that badly to where a normal body that you would cremate, that's how badly her body was. It looked like a cremated body.
Jesus Christ.
So on January 14th of 1993, so about a year later, or actually not even a year, it's about 6 to 7 months later, Cindy Hennings was arrested for aggravated assault after witnesses said she and Natasha had been fighting at the party. So remember when Anthony, who was one of the witnesses, claimed that he, heard or saw two people beating Natasha up?
Right.
Well, one of those people was Cindy Hennings.
Okay, so he kind of wasn't lying about that.
Well, so he made that witness statement to the investigators, and based off that witness statement is whenever they arrested Cindy because of that witness statement.
Oh, got you.
And then along with Cindy, they also arrested 20-year-old, I think his name is James Melvin Morton, and he was 20 at the time. So he was the second person that was said to have been seen or heard that was beating up Natasha.
So they were correspondence with the two people that...
Yes, that Anthony stated. So because of Anthony's witness statement, the two of them were arrested based off of his witness statement. So Rogers said that the male witness, who we now know as Anthony, took a polygraph test and passed it. But, he passed the polygraph test with that witness statement. But then later he recanted under duress after Morton and Hennings were arrested. So keep in mind, Anthony went ahead and made that witness statement. Due to that witness statement, both Cindy Hennings and Morton were arrested. And then once they were arrested, they did a polygraph test where the witness, which is Anthony, passed it. But right after he passed the polygraph, he went ahead and recanted his witness statement. So then at that point, they had to let Cindy and Morton go.
I wonder if they try to, I guess threaten him, which is why he recanted.
Or like their family members, right? Like their family members could have done it. What's weird to me is, I mean, they had these circumstantial evidence against Cindy's father with the whole accelerant and stuff. But of course, that wasn't hard, core proof evidence to arrest him. Right. But then they had this witness statement with Cindy. And so they ran with that and did arrest her for that. So even though they didn't have like actual proof, they only went off of, a witness statement and arrested them. But then after they recanted it, they really had nothing to hold her and Morton to. So then they went ahead and let her go. But a female inmate who shared a cell with Cindy Hennings told Rogers that Hennings admitted to the killing, but investigators could not perform a polygraph test on Hennings because she was pregnant at the time.
But she's not pregnant now, so...
No, I agree with you. She was only pregnant for 9 months, right? So I don't know why they couldn't have done one afterwards.
Right, so that's my point. Why not afterwards? Okay, I get that she was pregnant. You really can't do that. But what was y'all game plan after she gave birth? So y'all just let it go?
Basically. That was the end of that article. So doesn't say, like, what they did afterwards or why they didn't really,
They dropped the ball with that. I'm sorry. Especially if her dad was deceased. I don't know if he was deceased, at the time. He, passed away at the time she was pregnant in jail. Mm-hmm. But still...
Well, so he was deceased in 2012. I don't think he was deceased, that couple months after when all this was going on after the murder.
Yeah, which I figured, but still, right. You still could, perform a polygraph test on her.
I agree.
Like they gave birth.
I think they just let it go too easily. I'm not sure why they didn't kind of go back and do the polygraph. But another thing about polygraphs is it's not the best method of proof to take to court. It's not... It's kind of also considered a type of circumstantial evidence.
True.
It's not like, hardcore evidence like forensics or anything like that. Which in this case, there's none of that. There's no hardcore forensic evidence on anything for them to convict anyone.
Yeah, everything. They burnt it all.
Right. Everything is all he said, she said kind of, basically it's a he said, she said kind of case.
Yeah. I agree with this article. I think that the main perpetrator or suspect is Cindy's father, but just by the fact that he is familiar with that accelerant, I think that he definitely had something to do with it. He was a major part of it.
I agree. I think he was the one who, if anything, I don't know if he necessarily killed Natasha, but he definitely helped the person who killed her by absolutely. Covering it up. Yeah. So he's definitely, I do agree. He definitely has something to do with the case. And like I was stating earlier in this episode, that investigators do know or think that they know who it is, but they don't give much information.
Right.
So this is literally the only article that I found, and I had to dig deep to find this article, but this is literally the only article that I found where investigators mention any suspects at all, because they really just didn't want to kind of talk about that at all. They didn't want to destroy any, evidence or anything like that, I'm assuming. Years later, in 2012, Rogers wanted to come out, and kind of give a little bit more information on who they think the suspect was. Mm-hmm. I guess just to see if, other witnesses will come forward to support that finding. So yeah, that's the story of Natasha Atchley.
That is a crazy story, and I've never heard of this story, so I'm really, really glad that you told this. I'm really glad.
It's definitely a very cold case that, I feel like the answers are like right in front of you.
Absolutely.
But, due to circumstances, it's not solved.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not, even though that we believe that Cindy and her father and possibly the Melvin guy, they definitely have something to do with it. I strongly think that they had something to do with it. I really think that they need to go back to the drawing board, because they definitely dropped the ball. And when I mean they, I mean investigators, because you still should have polygraphed Cindy after she had birth. You kind of just okay, she had birth, and you just kind of left it alone, and that's where you went wrong.
Right.
That's where you definitely went wrong. I don't know why they did that. I don't know if they would, have any resources or sources out there that stated why they did not go back and look at her or, interview her again. I'm sure they had a reason, but I don't feel like there is no reason.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's something that they couldn't build a case on, they should have still just, did the polygraph and kept it,
right.
just for their records. And I mean, I know if Cindy's father, which I know you and I believe very strongly that Cindy's father definitely played a played a part in getting rid of the body and burning her and all of that. And it seems like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to me, I'm like, I wonder if there was any, like, I know the car was burnt, her body was burnt, but I wonder if there was any DNA or prints or anything found, you know, on the car,
Right.
the parts of her car that weren't burnt. But I mean, I doubt it, because I'm sure they would have.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would have got it. But that's the crazy part. There's no DNA. There's nothing like concrete to convict anybody on this case, and that's the hard part for sure.
Well, there you have it. Another cold case, unsolved murder with what I feel like is evidence is right there.
Yeah.
You know, but hey, we're not investigators, Shivani. We just tell the story.
We just tell the story. You're right. Shaylin, I feel like you and I need a day where we just go and treat ourselves.
I agree. So, what do you have in mind, though?
I was thinking that we can go get our makeup done.
Okay.
And I also really badly need to do my eyebrows. So I was thinking we can do that. But I also want to take a road trip somewhere. So maybe we can take a road trip somewhere and then get our eyebrows and makeup done.
I'm glad you said that because I really, truly want to go to Houston to visit Tia.
Tia Edwards?
Yes, ma'am. So I think we should go ahead and just take that trip to Houston.
Yeah, I agree. Do you know what service you want done?
I actually want to book her date night glam.
Really?
Yes, I love bits.
I was actually looking into that. I think we should do the same thing. So let's go ahead and get her booked.
Let's book it, girl.
If you guys want to know a little bit more about her services, you guys can find her on Instagram. Her Instagram handle is
everythingbrows_beauty.
So go ahead and go visit her and check out her page and see what she has to offer.
Go do it.
All right, guys, there you have it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you.
Goodbye.
Bye.